Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell. You know what time it is. It is 8 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning. My favorite time of the week. It is time for Sales Logic. I'm hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter, and lucky for us, we are both in our home offices today.
Yes, and we both have cups of coffee in our hand. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm sure you've got golf or tennis on tap. I've got a run on tap here in a soccer game. But anyway, hey, today, what are we talking about? We're talking about secrets to getting to decision makers. This is going to be a good topic because, again, how many people get shut out from really getting the meetings they want with the decision makers? So that's our topic.
Yeah. And, and any kind of sales call, if you're not talking to the decision maker, you're making the process so much harder than it has to be.
You're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, everything that you need to know to sell more effectively. Mark, it's been such a good week. I have had so many messages on LinkedIn or people reaching out to me, just really how much they value the show and how much they really walk away with the tactics that they can use to sell more effectively. Before Mark dives a little bit more into today's topic, I always like to tell you how the show works because we want to invite you, the audience, to be a part of the show. Please reach out with your questions because we're going to feature you right here. This isn't what Mark and I want to talk about. It's your show. We cover a book, we discuss a hot topic, and because we want you to leave with return on investment, we have a lightning round. So Mark, what are we looking at today?
Well, the topic is secrets to getting to decision makers. The question comes from Yannick in Berlin. He says, I have a young sales team. We're growing and expanding, and to keep up with demand, we've had to bring on sales professionals that are new in the field. They're eager, high energy, and unafraid, but their youth and over-aggressive tactics are keeping them from getting to decision makers. As their sales leader, how best can I help? Okay, hey, I threw that into the Sales Logic brain like I always do. And it came back with 3 really fascinating things. First of all, establish your credibility. Your people have got to establish their credibility, whether it be through other industry events, association events, trade groups, other referral partners, but they've got to establish their credibility. 2, you've got to be able to pique their interest of the decision maker. If it's not about them, 100% about them, they're not going to be interested in you. And the third piece, call to action. So many times salespeople miss out because they don't have a clear call to action. So what's on your list?
Gosh, I think there's so much. If I had a young sales team, really where I would start is I would make sure they know who the decision maker is. I mean, you've really got to get ridiculously clear on who it is they are trying to get a meeting with. I was just working with a sales team about a month ago, and we were onboarding some new and very experienced salespeople, but they weren't getting up to speed like they needed to be. And what we got down to it is they were still chasing the decision maker from their last company. And so that it's not really something you think about when you think about getting to the decision maker, but that's really where I think you need to start.
Well, and it's so easy for the manager to think that the people know exactly who to reach out to and who to get. You can't assume. This is so challenging. I was with a sales team this week and same thing came up because they moved some people from one division over to another division and really had to take a step back. And I was challenging the sales leader, says, do these people really understand the new marketplace that they're going into? So I'm going to challenge Yannick. You probably need to take a step back and really help paint a picture as to who that decision maker is and what motivates them, what drives them. Because again, your people are over aggressive, but you know what? That over aggressiveness may be coming across as just stupidity because they're not confident in knowing the right information as to what to share. I love aggressive people. I love it. You want them to be aggressive, but arm them with the right information.
Yeah, and there's a time in the sales process to be aggressive, and it is not at the beginning. Yannick, you said that you have a young sales team, and I'm not sure if that's young in the number of years they've been working in this industry, or if they're young in general. But Mark mentioned something that he put into the Sales Logic brain, and that is establishing the credibility. It is really difficult to get to decision makers if they have not heard of you or they have not heard of the business. And you've really, really got to think about that. I was working with a sales team last week who's getting ready to open a brand new office in a new location. And they are both. They are a young sales team in the amount of time that they've been working, and they're young. They're in an industry that typically has older sales professionals in it, and they've got young. And we've got to do a lot in that community to establish their credibility and their visibility. I'm not going to say that it's just credibility, because it's visibility too. What are you doing to make a little bit of noise in the marketplace so that when you knock on the door, a decision maker would be willing to talk to you?
Well, that brings up this whole point of repetitiveness. And this is where marketing efforts come into play and other things. So I would hope that there's a little bit of marketing effort that's happening. We got great people checking in from across the pond. Simon, Dave is at 30,000 feet. That's great. That means Wi-Fi is working on probably your American flight. But here's the whole situation. It comes down to this. You have to be able to allow your people to know where to go. And now I'm going to back up the bus here a little bit, because what's happening is they're probably using selling techniques that worked for other decision makers, lower level people in another job. When you're moving, and I'm going to assume that these are decision makers a little higher up in the organization, you have to use different techniques, different strategies. That means you have to be much more patient with how frequently you can reach out to them, and patient in terms of the content you're delivering to them to get them to respond.
Yeah, and I think something that's very important when you're trying to get to decision makers is when you are making noise in the marketplace, what are you making noise with? I mean, you've really got to position your team as an expert in the marketplace. I just had a conversation with Ian Altman last week, and I love this line that Ian uses, and that is that a lot of times when he's reaching out cold to decision makers, he'll say, we work a lot in your industry. We found that these are the top 3 issues, and we have solutions and innovative ideas to solve that. Here are some of the results we've had in your industry. Establishing that you understand their challenges better than they do.
See, that's so key, because you're leading with a statement. You're leading with something that is relevant to them. This is what's so key. And you're confirming it, because you made that comment that, hey, we've worked with others, we've researched this, we know this. Something else that really happens too many times, when people don't know who the decision maker is, they call the general number and they say, hey, I'm looking for whoever is in charge of this. And you know what that general number does? They connect you with purchasing. Let me tell you something. That is the sales prevention department. That is the last department you want to go to. What you want to do is you want to go to by calling them up and asking them the exact same question. The gatekeeper, maybe the switchboard, whoever it might be. You want to ask them the exact same question that you would ask that decision maker, because the idea is you want to plan that. This person understands something about our business. I need to connect them with the right person, because too many times what happens is over aggressiveness trying to get in the door, and what happens? You get routed to purchasing. You get routed to some department that doesn't go anywhere.
Well, I can't imagine. I mean, Yannick, really, if you're having your team just calling companies and trying to figure out who to talk to, you're going about this all wrong. Bryn Tillman isn't with us this morning, but she would be the first person to tell you to get on LinkedIn and do all of your research there. But I think if you want to get to decision makers, I think you have to find a way to interact with those decision makers before you ever make a call with them, whether that is an engagement on LinkedIn, whether that means going to a trade show, whether that means, attending an event where they are, but where can you interact with them? Natalie makes such a great point. You got to learn about the industry and trends to be able to add value to the decision makers. You really, gone are the days of asking people what keeps them up at night. You have to know what keeps them up at night before you ever get through the door. And if you want to get to a decision maker, they have to see you as the person who can solve those problems.
You know, it's interesting talking about LinkedIn. That came up this week. I love Andy's. There are no gatekeepers, they're gate openers. You are spot on with that. You're right, because gate openers, they are your ticket into the opportunity you want to sell them. Hey, here's some. And this came up this week because, again, this industry I was working in, I said, well, LinkedIn really doesn't work for our industry. I said, okay, it may not work that the people are not on it, but they still have profiles. They have profiles which are going to lead you to information in terms of where they live, school they live, previous jobs. You're going to find different connections, and there are going to be ways that you're going to be able to create common information that you can come back and share with them. Example, I mean, we've got the Olympics coming up here in just about a month, the Summer Olympics. And I'm amazed at the number of people who take a real keen interest in the Olympics because they're from another country, they used to work in another, whatever it might be. Finding out those things, there are opportunities, but when we talk about finding ways to connect with people, there are always ways to connect with people. You just have to be resourceful.
Yeah, I also think that if you look for your decision maker on LinkedIn and they're not on there, big clue that, that's not where you're going to connect with them. You need to figure out, where your decision makers go and where you're going to get involved with them. It's interesting. Yesterday I was on the phone with Ford Stakes about something, and a friend of ours through National Speakers Association, Ford speaks a lot in the franchise world. He's a member of the franchise association. Like, he is an active member of that association because that's where his target market lives. If you talk to Ross Bernstein, another good friend of ours, he speaks all over the world, probably 130 speaking engagements a year. He's involved in, Meeting Planners International, IASB. He's going where his audience is. What can you do to interact, especially if you have a young team? And I want to talk about this a moment, because if you are sending people to networking events without a strategy at that networking event, then you're doing more damage than if they'd never shown up. And it's really, really important that once you know where your target market goes and lives and gathers information, you need a strategy, because that's where getting to the decision maker begins.
You brought up so many good things there. Let's talk about associations. Let's talk about this sort of stuff. And what I want to zero in on, you have to become part of their world. You have to become, and that's why you join the association. You get involved. You attend their events. Regardless of what level they're at, you have to get involved and you have to be seen. Now, you might say, hey, Mark, my company won't pay for that. Okay, I know. But you know what? You can still follow the association online. You can do it. But here's something else. I want you to check out the Sales Logic Intel Engine. This is part of the Sales Logic Mastermind. Our good friend Sam Richter is allowing every member of the Sales Logic Mastermind to have access to it. Tremendous source of information to get you the right contacts, to get you the right people to be reaching out to. Because again, your reputation arrives before you do. You've got to do the homework before you make that call.
Yeah, and I think I use the Intel Engine. That's where I find and get all my leads. I love the point that Simon's making here. We really need to stop calling them gatekeepers, because it's a bad mindset. You need to think about them as a friend, and they're the avenue. Because if the gatekeeper gets you to the decision maker, you're probably in the door. I mean, more often than not, if they've sold you, which leads to another way to get to decision makers, and that is referrals. Probably the most powerful way to get to decision makers. If I'm calling on somebody like crazy and they've never heard of me, but Mark has worked for them before and he opens that door, then that is that's a really, really powerful way to get the door to open, or even just using Mark's name.
Especially the further up the food chain you go, more referrals, absolutely. But here's the whole thing there. If you're going to use a referral, you're going to use a person's name, make sure they're okay with that, please. Because again, credibility plays immense, incredibly important the further up you go. Hey, here's the thing. Alan brings up, what are 3 things a new person should know before going to a networking event? 1, who is going to be there? Okay, who are going to be the type of people that are going to be there? 2, what is something that the industry is dealing with? 3, who are some of the key people who you want to connect with? You know those 3 things, you can walk into a networking event and you can begin to establish credibility there.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. Alan, I love that you asked this question. Number 1, why are you going? I mean, really, the mindlessness to which we attend networking events is probably one of the top 5 mistakes I see organizations make. If your target market is not there, do not think you are going there for business. Go there because you want to have a good time, but do not go there because you think it is business. If it is not where your avatar lives, do not go there. Mark said it beautifully. You better go there deciding who you're going to connect with and who you're going to meet. I set a goal for every networking event that I have to talk to 3 people I have never spoken to before. And I go in with my open-ended set of questions. Number 3, who you have to set a goal to leave with 1 person you're going to continue that relationship with. Because going to a networking event does not get you to the decision maker. It gets you an introduction to a couple of people you can have a conversation with. And the last thing I'm going to say is you better know before you go to that event, the last person you want to be talking about is yourself. If you catch yourself talking about yourself, you are wasting your time and energy. You are not selling in that networking event. You are gathering information. You already know about yourself. So if you talk about yourself, you just blew it.
If you're talking about yourself, you don't need to go to a networking event. You just need to go into the bathroom and go ahead and talk to yourself. So anyway, here's the situation. Networking is not prospecting. I say that very boldly, and I say that for this reason. Networking has to earn the right to be a prospecting activity, because I see, just like what you said, too many people. Well, I'm going to go prospecting. I'm going to go to a networking event. Yeah, because you're going with no plan whatsoever. Networking has to earn the right to be a prospecting activity.
Yeah. I love, Natalie added something here that I think is really important. And that is, Alan, I don't want you to leave with this because she is spot on. She said, follow up right away. That is so key. Like, you're going to leave that networking event. I talked to Natalie, I talked to Thomas, I talked to Hugh, I talked to Mark, and I decided I'm going to follow up with Hugh before I leave that event. I'm going to say to Hugh, great to meet and connect with you. I'm going to give you a call on Monday, set up some coffee. I've really got my plan, because it is the lead in to sales, but it's like dating. It's really, really going to take something, which reminds me too, when you talk about getting to decision makers, I think it's important to tell your sales team that this is a lifestyle. It is a process we do every day to try to get to the decision maker. It is like getting up and exercising and brushing your teeth and, saying your prayers or doing your meditation, whatever it is that you do on a daily basis. You need to be doing something on a daily basis to incrementally move you to the decision maker. Because I just don't decide that I want to consult for this company and I attend a networking event and I meet the CEO and I'm like, great, I've met the decision maker. I'm just going to start pinging on him until he lets me through the door. No, I've got to decide, like, how am I going to incrementally move that relationship forward every day so that I can make the decision?
2 techniques that I love using when I'm trying to reach a decision maker that is very difficult to get a hold of. It's what I call 58-2. 58-2. This is 58 minutes after the hour to 2 minutes in the hour. I'm going to call. If I'm trying to reach a decision maker who's very busy, meetings always start at the top of the hour. They always do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call them right at the top of the hour. That may be the one window of time when they actually answer the phone. And it's amazing how that works. The other piece is Friday afternoons. I love reaching out to people on Friday afternoons, decision makers, because here's what I find. Decision makers, they're still working, but they may dial down a little bit. They're a little more relaxed. I have great conversations every Friday afternoon with decision makers that I'm trying to get a hold of. And it's amazing. Sure, I get voicemail a lot. I get that. But here's the other thing. I'm leaving somebody a voicemail at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and I don't care. And it's going to come across as pretty credible because they're like, wow, this person's working. This person's really interested. But the conversation I have, I can't tell you the amount of business I've picked up by doing those two simple things.
Yeah, I love what Thomas is saying here. If you can create value, no matter who you're talking to in a community, you can perk the ears of any decision maker. Thomas, that is such good advice, because I have I was doing some marketing work on my company yesterday, and we were kind of talking through where my leads are coming from, and my best leads. And a lot of them have been from articles or videos I've posted out on LinkedIn, and my decision maker has just happened to see. It wasn't somebody that I was even actively going after. I was just communicating in a way that really added value to your point. It's such that is such a powerful statement that you just made. It really being, because I think the thing about content right now is you really need to be intentional and purposeful about what you're putting out there. Don't just write a blog or shoot a video because you need something done off your to-do list. Really think about what you're putting out there, because it is branding you, to Thomas's point, because somebody will see that and go, wow, I need to talk to that person. Such great advice.
And you don't do any of that unless it is 100% geared towards who that decision maker is and what is going to be of interest to them. It's not what is of interest to you. It's what's of interest and value to the decision maker. I tell you what, we could do a whole episode on this. We could do multiple shows on this, but it is about creating your brand. I'm going to go back to a comment that he made that I find fascinating. Every day I want to have conversations. Every day my objective is to have 5 conversations. And my whole goal is to just earn the right, the privilege, honor, and respect to be able to talk with that person again. Because if I could earn the right, the privilege, honor, respect to be able to talk with that person again, you know what? Something is going to happen. If we're going to develop a line of communication. And that person may not ultimately be a buyer for me, but they may in turn connect me with somebody else, connect me with somebody else, connect me with somebody else. And it's amazing. But our net worth is the sum of our network. Okay, that's an old line that's been around for 100 years, but wow. Hey, we're burning time. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's time to jump into the the book and the lightning round.
Yes, the book is from our good friend David Avron, Easy to Do Business With. I don't have a copy of it here in front of me. Do you have a copy of it?
I don't have a copy. I have the Kindle version, and I've ordered my copy. It should be coming in from Amazon any day. But I got to tell you, this is the book that was meant to be written. In fact, I think we should do a whole show on, are you easy enough to do business with? Because it is, you have really, any single obstacle you put in front of the customer, you have given them a reason to go to your competition. And David not only makes the case for being easy to do business with, but he gives you strategies and ideas and ways to think about obstacles that you never believed are obstacles, and to remove them in doing business. So great read, and we'll put a link here and make sure that it's in the show notes. But David Avron, Being Easy to Do Business With.
We should have charged him for that plug, right? Yeah. Anyway, hey, good friend, great guy. Anyway, lightning round. Top 10 ways to coach a new sales professional. Go.
Number 1, top 10 ways to coach a sales professional is get a baseline. Figure out what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are.
2, never assume. You have to take them and assume they don't know anything. Be patient with their learning.
Yeah, I would use the situational leadership model, Ken Blanchard's, and decide if they're in the S1, S2, S3, S4 box. Coaching at the beginning with somebody who's brand new is micromanaging is okay. You've got to figure out where they are and coach them differently based on their skill and ability.
As you coach them in that S1 through S4 model, you have to look at yourself. Which model are you in? Because it's so easy for the coach, for the leader, to automatically assume. Goes back to what I said, number 2.
Yeah. Number 5, figure out what the actions and behaviors. Coach to the actions and the behaviors, not to the result.
Inspect what you expect. You have to be willing to take the time to inspect what you expect that person to be doing.
Yeah. Number 7, coach formally and informally. Do some one-to-one sessions that is more of a formal, but also get in the car, go on a call with them, listen to what they're doing, and do it informally and give them feedback.
Number 8, coach them by asking them questions. The idea being is that as you coach them, as you develop them, you want to ask them questions because you want to get their skill set strengthened to where they can actually begin coaching themselves.
Yeah. Number 9, decide if you have skill issues or discipline issues. Understand that you cannot fix a discipline issue. If somebody isn't doing the behaviors and the actions that you asked, you need to let them go from the team. A skill issue, you need to work in and develop, but understand what you're coaching to.
Number 10, set goals and objectives that are easy for them to reach early on. Create a level of momentum to help motivate them. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Hey, if something we've said has earned you a single dollar, would you consider telling a friend about our show? Because it's how we grow when you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. I am going to put David's book up here. I'm hoping that's going to work right now.
And hey, want you to check out Sales Logic Mastermind. Go to saleslogicpodcast.com. You're going to see the mastermind information right there on the homepage. We want you to join us because we've added, like we said earlier in the show, the Sales Logic Intel piece. And of course, the Sales Logic Brain. Tremendous amount of assets. People who are in the program love it. We'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, we would love to. All right. Ridiculously easy to do business with David Avron. Listen, please go and check out the Sales Logic Mastermind. What a powerful set of information and tools. We'll see you right back here next week with another episode of Sales Logic. Until then, go close a few deals.